And it's Monday night, so welcome in to another edition of Dolan's Dugout with your host, Steve Dolan. I'm Ramon Scott. Steve, a couple of guests joining us tonight. Interesting day today, Steve, and we're going to talk about it with these guys. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. Also some prep sports. We're going to try to stay on track for August or September. What's going on, man?
Definitely, Moni, doing well tonight. As you know, as always, we have Adam Paul from EC Preps with us, and also we're blessed tonight to have Chris Kryjewski with us. Chris, of course, assistant football coach, Sarah High School, girls lacrosse coach, Castle Park High School. Chris, how's everything going tonight?
Everything's great.
Everything's great. Thank you. Chris, first question. As an assistant football coach at Sarah High School, what are you guys able to do with the team now? Is anything going on, or how are you preparing for the season right now?
We're kind of just going right now. We're doing virtual meetings and whatever capability that we can, and but we're just a silent program that works and grinds and want to win a championship. So we'll see what happens this season as long as we play it.
Now, Chris, I know it's early to ask this question at all. Nobody really knows. A couple months from now, of course, Jerry Schneep, the commissioner, steps aside. Joe Hines takes over. Have the football people, have you heard anything about as far as the possibilities of this season, what's going on, or is it just too early to have heard anything from CIF so far?
Well, I've known Joe for 10+ years, working with him at the Metro Conference. He's a great gentleman. He did a great job at CIF. But all we've heard is they don't want to go past Christmas. They don't want to have school finals just because they don't want to push into winter and do any overlapping. That's all the information that's out. Everything else is just going to be based off of however, whenever we can start.
No, of course, nobody knows. Now, of course, unfortunately, your girls' lacrosse season was cut short this year by the school shutting down because of the coronavirus. Have you been in touch with players, and how did your players take that when that happened?
Well, when we got the news on March 13th, we had one final meeting. It was more of like a team bonding and like an exit meeting, just saying, hey, you know what, this might be the last time. We hung out with each other for a good 3 hours. Just because we didn't even know, but we all felt this was a final moment. So we wanted to spend time together because we're a big program that's all about being a family, and that's what given us all the success that we've had over the last couple years. So for us, after that point, we were doing Zoom meetings until our district decided to go to Google Meet. So ever since that point, we've been using Google Meet and doing virtual meetings. It's more kind of keeping the kids going, and if they have any questions on their virtual learning for academics, I can help them and support them in any way I could.
So as far as what happens now, of course the season's over with them and all, how did the seniors take it? Because as you know, a lot of those girls probably will never get to play lacrosse again.
It's been very tough. I had 5 seniors on my roster. One was on JV, and then I had the other 4 on varsity. They've all had their stories. Fox 5 did a story on them. They did a senior night. KSI did a senior night. I did a virtual senior night where I made an iMovie video for them with different pictures that I have of them and just thanking them for their time. And then all the underclassmen, they said thank you and spoke from the heart on how they felt about their teammates. A couple of them are going to go to junior college. One's going to UCSD. I have one right now that's contemplating on 3 different offers. We're just waiting on this last offer to come in, and hopefully she'll be studying in the next couple of weeks with an NAIA school. And but they're all down on losing it, but they all understand at the same time.
Great. Now, Chris, I want to just ask you one more question, and I want to certainly let Adam and Ramon get in here. Speaking of lacrosse, I got to be honest, until 2 years ago, I'd never seen the sport except a little bit here and there on TV. I was fortunate the last 2 years until the season stopped to be doing statistics for all home games of the San Diego Seals. Of course, they were on Bleacher Report Live and some games on Fox 5 San Diego. And I was very impressed by the sport of lacrosse. Do you think the Seals are going to catch on? Have you seen any of their games? Do you think they're going to catch on? And where do you think the sport's headed?
Honestly, I haven't been able to go to a game. The grind of one season and just time commitments. And but this year, if we had our season, I was actually going to do a community appreciation night, and the San Diego Seals were going to come out and they were going to donate tickets, raffle off tickets, and then get us an opportunity to go watch a game for free. But they're doing a lot of community events, and the name is that you want to reach out to is Arthur Pellet. he's doing a great job getting the community involved. I'm excited for what they can do next year.
Definitely, I'm with you on that. Now, let's go back as we're talking about lacrosse and talk about football too. Have you heard anything this year? Of course, we're all hoping that we play football this year in CIF and all. Have you heard anything like maybe there'll have to be a little bit of adjustments, certainly with social distancing and all, where maybe stands will be limited, how many tickets there are, and things like that? Have you heard anything about that, or is that just kind of still just a bunch of speculation?
It's still all speculation. I don't know what happened. It's hard to say.
Yeah, because I know when your season was cut short, of course, Adam, who's just to your right, so to speak, he's really into softball, and they had their season cut short too. So it's really affected a lot of students and all. But how about from the academic end? I know the schools are still in and all. Have you heard how have people been able to, like the girls across the, they've been able to stay together, do anything other than Zoom meetings, or what have they been able to do, like to stay close, so to speak, during this time?
Well, nobody really can do anything except for virtual meetings. We don't want to gather. We don't want to put ourselves in situations at all. Per CIF rules, we can't force any type of stuff like workouts. It's all voluntary type of stuff. But I know how my team is and how their mindsets. They believe it, and they're working as best as they can at home, whatever their parents are allowing them to do.
Now, Chris, before the show, on the four of us, actually, we're talking. I know you're a fan of Major League Baseball too. Of course, today we heard that the owners have approved what Major League Baseball has put out there as far as for a season to start July 1st. Players, maybe not so much, because obviously the main issue is going to be money. As a fan of baseball, Major League Baseball, what's your thoughts on what's going on so far there?
I truly hope that we can be able to watch baseball again, because I'm not a guy that really will watch a full 9 innings, but I'll watch 7 through 9. But get some sports on TV would be exciting to see. Excuse me, but I mean, whatever the professionals got to do to keep the distancing and keeping their players healthy, it's a benefit, because nobody wants to have a liability. I was actually talking to a coach earlier today, and we were talking about what could be if they open the opportunity for high school to play a fall sport. Could it lead to a liability if a breakout or something happens again? We all don't know, and this whole thing sucks. But if the professionals can do it in some way and it benefits, then it's going to trickle down all the way down to us at the high school level.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Chris, because I watch a lot of what sports is like on ESPN and all now. And really what I found when they're interviewing like commissioners of the Big 12, the SEC, whatever, in football, or even the commissioner of baseball, whatever, really, no, I guess the bottom line is just nobody knows, because you just don't know what it's going to be like in 2 weeks. Is that kind of the approach that you guys have to take right now?
Yes, it's day to day. Everything is day to day. It could change drastically day by day, or even by weeks, and we don't know what's going to happen. And I really hope that this can clear up, because the one thing that sucks for me in lacrosse is we haven't even been able to take team pictures. Our last game of the season, we took a team picture just for yearbook, but that's not a true team picture. That was a sloppy team picture. I'm about taking true professional photos that last a long time. We haven't been able to have a banquet. I'm not about having a virtual banquet. I want to see my kids for the last time. And I want them all to see each other for the last time. Because like I said earlier, we are a team, and we truly believe in being a family. I know teams say that they're a family, but what we do and what we incorporate in our program, it defines that we are, no matter what.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned. Yeah, I want to get Adam's take on this, because Adam probably spends more time in Zoom meetings in the Supreme Court. So, what's the latest? What's the latest, Adam?
Well, no, I was going to ask about that. What are you hearing down in the South Bay? What are you guys allowed and not allowed to do as far as like uniform, collection? Because I just in the softball coaches Zoom meeting, Coach Mike at Olympian and Coach Juan at Hilltop, they were saying that they are able to collect, I guess, this week.
Yes, my school actually just emailed us today, so we're going to start collecting next week, and they're going to be doing it by last names. And they have a certain time frame that they're going to do it. and they got to clear out their athletic muscles. And so, they asked us to come in and help in certain ways, but also keep the social distancing aspect of it. So we'll do the best that we can and make it easy and simple. For me, like I tell my administrators, I'm all about making it easy for them. So when this first was put together, I immediately put a spreadsheet together and I sent it to them. And I was like one of the first coaches to get it out to my administrators of a debt list and what the kids owe. So they're much appreciated. And it's very detailed, and it'll be easy for me to collect uniforms right away when the kids just drop it in a bucket.
And as far as everything else, like Coach Chris was saying, it's day to day. And I mean, you know as much as I do, Chris, on the football deal, day to day, and things change. So nothing's really changed since we talked last week, guys. I mean, at least that I haven't heard.
No.
Well,
the thing that you go ahead, Chris. Yeah.
What bums me out is me going to Sarah this year is, the new opportunity for me. And, I just haven't been able to really meet the kids and meet all the coaches. Yeah, we've done it through virtual meetings, but it's not the same. You could actually really critique a kid on the field and see what their good habits are and what their bad habits are. Because I remember the one year that I went to Eastlake and, we talked about one player and, I watched the film and I broke down everything of what his good habits and his bad habits were. And we made him a great player that season. I want to be able to do the same thing, but I want to be able to see it on the field also and what they can do. And it's just kind of hard right now. You lose that time, spring ball's coming up, things that you can really work on. But, I mean, it is what it is in the situation we are, and we just got to move in a different era because I still think this whole virtual meetings are going to lead to different things moving forward. I mean, as a CIF advisory rep, there's no reason for us to now go into the CIF office to have our meetings. We can do it right here on a virtual meeting. There's just a lot of things that are going to change, I feel.
Now, Chris, as far as football is concerned, like you say, you can only do virtual meetings and all now. At what point is there maybe a best case scenario / hope that you'll be able to get on the field with the players? Would that be maybe when the summer practice starts in late July, or what are you guys hoping for best case scenario?
Well, the first day I think is July 30th, which would be the first day with pads. I mean, we want to get out there as soon as possible. I did hear that the state level is talking about waiving the dead period just for this season, just because we are technically on a slight concept of a dead period. But we'll see. I feel like it's going to pass, and then that'll benefit teams if this gets cleared up sooner. But I think there might be a good possibility that we get on the field by middle of July. I think, in all honesty, for me as a coach, and I'm not a head coach, but as an assistant, I feel the kids need at least a month of practice before they even set foot on the field, before they set foot in the game. Because now you're talking about safety. You're talking about a lot more in football than any other sport. Because football, you need at least 10 practices before you can even play in a game. So you're talking about a lot of liabilities, and you don't want to take any type of risks. Administrators, head football coaches, nobody. You don't want to put yourself in those risks. So you need at least a month worth of practice.
Now, Chris, you mentioned, of course, you're going to be at Sarah this year. If you could, for people watching, what's been your history in coaching football? Where all have you been before Sarah?
I was at Castle Park from 2010 to 2016. That was my first 7 years over there. We had a great team where my first year we were starting to build a culture. We had a couple down years, and then and we started coming together when I had a freshman team in 2011 and then this other freshman team in 2012. When we grouped them together, it really blossomed the team. And Adam was able to see this and see these kids in multiple ways at the high school level and college level with Santana. We went to the semifinals in 2014. We went to the divisional round and we lost the division in 2014, 2015. But we had a kid named Adrian Tolbert that went and played at Grossmont College. He's now signed with West Texas A&M. And then we had a kid named Luke Barku who just got signed with the Jaguars. So yeah, we had some kids at Castle, and it was a fun time. It was a fun ride. In 2000, go ahead.
Good. No, as I say, Steve, you're like me, a statistician. Those games drove me nuts because I was doing stats for both sides, both Castle Park and Santana. So after the game, I was up for at least a couple hours trying to tally up everything. There was at least 1,000 yards combined on both sides. So it was a lot of fun.
I can only imagine.
oh yeah. You know, we were a wing T team, but in 2014 we started becoming more of a throwing team, and we had a running type of throwing quarterback. So the quarterback threw for 1,000 yards, and he ran for 1,500. The next year we had more of a threat throwing quarterback, but he could run, and he threw for another 25. So we threw for the second most in school history in 2015. But 2016 kind of came to a down year, and just a lot of bad juju in the program. Not the coach, it's just things that we had at the bottom level of the programs, and it just kind of stuck. So I needed a change. So I decided to retire, and then one of my good friends who coached with me in 2014, he had gone to Eastlake, and he had coached that 2016 season at Eastlake High School as a defensive coordinator, and he's the current defense coordinator now. He asked me, and we were coaching roller hockey together. He asked me, he's like, "Hey, if I can get you at Eastlake, would you go?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I would definitely consider it." And we got in, and it just was a fun run. So 2017, I was at Eastlake High School, and we went to the CIF finals and lost to El Camino. We only lost 3 games that year, and it was a combined of 15 total points. The 2 losses in the regular season were 5 total points. Lost to Otay Ranch and lost to some school up in Orange County. I always forget what their mascots are Sharks. And then some stuff went down at Eastlake where they made a coaching change. It just wasn't the best fit going forward, and had the opportunity to come back to Castle Park because I worked on campus and work with the AD who was the head football coach at that time, and we did. And honestly, I think that was a really great year, even though it wasn't the success that we kind of projected. But it was a really roller coaster type of year. After a team that goes 0-10, you win the first game against O'Farrell, which we all talk about that in college, where Alabama's like playing Alabama Birmingham, and
the first
win. So we did that, and then we got smoked by Mar Vista, and then great coaching staff with Tyler Arciaga, who is now at Bonita. And we just lost a lot of kids due to injuries. So we had to forfeit a couple games. We forfeited against, I forgot who the 3rd game of that season was. And then we were trying to get the ability to play against Fallbrook, but just didn't work out the way we wanted to try to get it because we were gaining some kids back. But the time frame didn't work out. So we ended up having to forfeit 2 games, and we ended up going and winning the last, I think, 5 out of 6 games or whatever. We ended the season at 6-4. And we went to the playoffs and winning our league championship, which that year we had to play the league championship on a Friday and a Saturday because of the crazy thunderstorms that we had that year. But I mean, it was just one of those roller coaster years, hard-working staff that really was cohesive, and a lot of us came from Eastlake to go to Castle Park, and it just was a great opportunity. And I really cherished that time in 2018, no matter what. And then 2019, I wasn't. I applied to be the head football coach. It didn't work out, and Castle Park ended up hiring a great coach, and he led them to a CIF runner-ups opportunity, and he's gonna do a great stuff there. And it just, I felt now I needed to get back on the field, and I felt I had a couple other schools I was talking to and good opportunities, but I just needed to find the school that was the best fit for me, that worked hand in hand with me in lacrosse. And I felt Sarah was a great opportunity, and Coach Smith over there is a great head coach, and he knows what he's doing. They have a great coaches over there that are all working hand in hand. I feel like I'm the odd man out at times, but I think I'm gonna work out with them, and it's gonna be a fun run whenever the season can go. But I mean, overall, I've coached 5 different sports. I've coached basketball, I've coached roller hockey,
Wow.
girls lacrosse, boys volleyball. I was the head coach for 1 year for girls volleyball. I've done it all. I've done a lot of stuff.
Now, I was going to ask you about the lacrosse program because that's relatively new. It's only a couple years old. Isn't that right, Chris?
Well, at Castle Park, it's been around for 7 years.
Okay.
I had the opportunity to get hired by our old ASB administrator who just retired a year ago, Mr. Ed Badgett, and he gave me the opportunity as a young coach at 26 years old, first time ever head coach, to lead a program, and especially a program that I didn't have any knowledge of playing wise, coaching wise. He gave me an opportunity, and I cherish that every moment that I've had. And without him, I don't know where I would be right now as a coach. Like, I know I would be able to do things, but I wouldn't have as much confidence as a coach as what I have right now without him.
Now, Chris, we're talking about, of course, your days at Castle Park. A name you brought up a few minutes ago that caught my eye, Luke Barku, the defensive back, played at San Diego State. I mean, I covered their games this year for CBS Sports Network. I did their home games, and Luke was just outstanding. As you know, he had as many interceptions as anybody in the nation, I believe. What are your thoughts as he goes forward into the NFL? Do you think he has a chance of making an impact, of making a team and making an impact in the NFL?
Yes, I do. The young man has faced every type of adversity that has ever been given to him. I mean, in high school, he was a kid that would miss class but still passes tests, and teachers would get really upset with him and different things. But he had home problems too. Single parent home. I always gave him rides home. I picked him up in the mornings if I had to take him to school. I fed him at times, whatever I needed to do to take care of the kid. And then I know at Grossmont College, they took care of him also. I know he had some adversity there also. And but I mean, everywhere he's gone, he's faced it, and he knows how to do it. And the biggest person that's given him the opportunity is one, it's himself, and two, it's God. He believes in God, and as long as he continues believing in the faith of what he's going to do, sky the limit for the young man.
Did it surprise you he went undrafted, Chris? I know everybody's talking about his size, but I mean, he's a ball hawking type of player.
I think he would have been drafted earlier if he actually really had an opportunity to have a pro day. And it's not just him. There's a lot of people that missed the opportunity. I mean, let's talk about it. That is Moss. Dad's a Hall of Famer, and he didn't even get drafted. So there was a lot of players that just got skipped, and I think it was more. I really don't know. I don't want to go and knock on anybody, but it's harder to do a scouting report on people when you don't have pro days. It really is. And if they weren't invited to the combine, it's harder. You really got to do your due diligence. But I mean, a lot of people got bypassed, and I still feel he would have got drafted. Whatever, it doesn't matter. He's in the league now, and he has an opportunity to continue his time there, or it just can shatter. But I know him; it's not going to shatter. He's going to do a great job there.
Yeah, and it seems like right now, I would think that Jacksonville is going to be counting on him to be a member of the roster. They gave him, I think, $160,000. So that's kind of the equivalent of 6th or 7th round. That's someone who would make an NFL roster unless you just don't go out there and perform before the season starts. So I think there's a big hope for Luke to contribute to a team that actually has a pretty good reputation of producing some pretty decent defensive backs in Jacksonville.
Oh no, I agree, and a lot of those guys, Jacksonville's a team that they groom players, and then they move them up to, and then they do whatever they do with them. They trade them, or they move on, and the next guy is up. It's a next man up league, and I know Luke is going to do a great job. Whatever he has to do, if it's special teams first and play in the dime coverage, he's got to do what he's got to do, and I know he's going to shine. I mean, he did it at San Diego State his junior year. He had him. But I mean, if we all remember, the starter was in, and then he would play a series, and then all of a sudden Luke's in for like 2, 3, 4 series, and then all of a sudden the starter's back in. He's done it all. He's been a starter to a backup, played different role. He's been a role player. I'm gonna love to watch Sunday football and be a Jaguar fan just for him.
Yeah, and Chris, when a guy goes undrafted like Luke did, to me, if I were a player, I would rather be undrafted than taken like in the 6th or 7th round, because you might be taken by he might have been taken by a team that had a lot of DBs already, and they just bring him in training camp for a number. But when you are undrafted, you can really pick your spot. You can see, hey, this team needs DB, so I'm going there. And I think maybe he was able to pick his spot too. And again, it's probably been better than being drafted in a later round where you might go somewhere where they really don't need a DB.
Well, I mean, in conversations that him and I had over when he was out here in California during this time, he kind of knew the teams that were reaching out to him, and he had information about the Jaguars really being a team because they were the ones that were the hottest ones for him. There was one other team that was hot for him too, but the Jaguars were on him the whole time.
Yeah, can't forget that great game. A history-making game for him, the 3 picks against Colorado State. Never forget that performance. Chris, I want to know, I've kind of said, Adam and I have talked about this on a couple almost. Does lacrosse currently present kind of the best chance for a student athlete to receive a college scholarship compared to other sports, and maybe including all the sports?
I can't speak on the boys' side because I really don't know. I haven't coached it, and that is a dream of mine. When I'm done as a girls' coach, and I'll speak about that later. What my vision is, and that'll tell you when I'm done coaching girls lacrosse and coaching, especially at Castle Park. But in the girls' game, I've been meaning to do this over my time, but coaching 3 sports in a year has been very, very difficult for me to really make this type of list. But during this pandemic, like I said, it's benefited a lot of people, and it's also, not benefited a lot of people. But for me, it's benefited by I was able to make a coaching spreadsheet of every single coach from D1, D2, D3, and NAIA. And the more I did it, it took me a week and a half to complete it all. But the amount of teams in girls lacrosse at the college level is amazing. Just in D3 alone, there's 295 schools.
Wow.
So on average, you're averaging about 150 teams per division. That's D1 and D2, and it's amazing the opportunities that are there, and schools are still popping up. I know, like this year, I had two friends of mine that they moved over to 2 new schools. One of them left Montreat and went to Corbin University. Another one left from Adams State University and went to Eastern Oregon. So there's a lot of opportunities that are still opening up. And, the biggest way I learned and got into this game and was able to find out a lot of colleges is I started using field level for recruiting. It was really big for me, and it opened a lot of doors for my kids. And I had a goalie last year getting recruited, and she did a lot of self recruiting for herself, and which opened doors for me to meet other coaches also. So I think lacrosse, there's a big opportunity for kids as long as they have the grades, and 2, they have the skill set to play.
I also find that lacrosse is probably one of the few girls sports where you actually can earn a scholarship while playing for your high school team. Because, I mean, be around the bush, sports like softball and basketball, you don't earn those scholarships while playing at the high school. It's mostly earned on the travel ball circuit. I mean, the coaches will talk to the high school coaches to to gather what they're like outside of the travel ball and whatnot. But for the majority part, those scholarships aren't earned at coming at the high school level. Only on the travel ball circuit, because college coaches, especially for those sports, don't have the opportunity or the time to come out and watch a high school game. Some do, depending on when the window of opportunity is, but for the most part they don't. Do you see a lot of college coaches come to your games or come to games in general, Chris?
Actually, I was talking to a coach earlier this week, and no, not this week. I'm sorry, a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about how he'd rather talk to a high school coach versus a club coach because club coaches' intentions are just for the player, and high school coaches their intentions are for the playing ability, but also their academics. So, and I was testing a lot about my kids' academics because I think at my school, and I don't know the true numbers, but I think my program has one of the highest GPAs on campus, and I don't ever have to worry about grade issues with my players. So it's easy for colleges to recruit my kids. But that's the biggest thing. It's, that's the difference with club coaches. They only care about the athleticism versus the grade side of it. And I've seen it. Castle Park in basketball, we had a kid named Adrian Lee who played at San Diego Mesa College. But his club coach was all about athleticism. The kid didn't listen to us, and we could have had him a D1 opportunity in basketball, but his grades were terrible, and he didn't listen to. I had put him on the academic plan. He still didn't do anything. So in the end, it comes down to the kid and whatever's being fed on the other side. I have a personal opinion on club coaches, and I don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers, but that's just how it is.
Now, Chris, totally understand. It's funny too, Chris, from what you just described too, you mentioned grades, because I worked on campus for 16 years at San Diego State in media relations. And one thing that's a big topic now in college sports, of course, if they don't play football this year, there probably won't be any college sports. But the problem in college, they talk about student athletes. And as you know, they're really athlete/students, because they're even talking now about some schools playing football without students on campus. So I think it's kind of exposed this whole student athlete thing. And the bottom line is 98% of the college athletes never go on to play pro. So really, they need to take advantage of being a student too, not just an athlete, because chances are they're not going to play in the NFL. They're not going to play in Major League Baseball, whatever. So they're really being able to be offered this free opportunity, get a free education. So I just, again, having worked on the other side of campus, it kind of ruffles my feathers so often when I hear them referred to as student athletes. And now it's really coming out, if you were to play football without students at all, it really shows that you're just, not that you're just an athlete, but that academics maybe don't matter as much to some people as they should.
Oh, no. Anytime you ever hear me praise anything, I always say student before you're an athlete. I tell my kids the same thing. You're a student before you're an athlete. I mean, I can't really go down in the middle school and recruit, and my administrators can't go down there and speak upon on my behalf about my program. So I decided to make a iMovie video talking about my program to be able to, of course, I'm going to send it to my administrators to clear it first. But in that video, I talk about we have a reputation at Castle Park High School that girls lacrosse is a high standard program academically. And we don't mess around, and teachers know that. When there's a student that walks around with a lacrosse stick, one, they walk around with pride, but two, the teachers know that they can need it. If that kid acts up or does anything positive, I want an email from them. So I acknowledge the kid, and if they're doing something bad, then then we're gonna have a conversation, and the kid is gonna go back and apologize to the teacher. So there's a high standard that we live by, and I mean, athletically, we're a program that we want kids that are not going to bow down to anybody. It's a physical sport. Yeah, they don't wear shoulder pads, they don't wear a helmet, but it's very physical. I've had a kid get 4 concussions in her 3 years of playing. So, I mean,
ouch.
And she has to wear a helmet herself. And this is the kid that has the attributes to be a Division I athlete. So, and the first time she ever picked up a lacrosse stick was her freshman year. And she actually wanted to quit, but I told her, I said, hey, learn the sport, you'll figure it out, and I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to be great, and you're going to be better than what you were in any other sport.
And compared to some of these other sports guys, when we get out there and do some exercising and social distancing, I've seen some people throwing some lacrosse a little bit in the parks lately as we starting to move outside, because unlike basketball or some of these sports with contact, you just get out there and toss the ball around a little bit. Maybe get out there right now. What are the numbers like for a team? Is it a hard sell, Chris, or are all these programs in the county getting enough activity on their rosters to fill out not only one team but two, a junior varsity team as well?
I think it all just depends on the situation of the school. I know a lot of North counties, they field, for sure they do JV and varsity. I think like 2 freshman teams or 2 JV teams. East County, I seen JV and varsity, but I know the game is growing. There's 60 teams now in San Diego County that are hosting girls lacrosse. There's a proposal out there for us to gain another playoff division, and we'll see what happens and where the conference goes. But I mean, I could speak upon the South Bay. I think a lot of teams that struggles just trying to get coaches, because I know the one biggest problem is there's a lot of turnover in coaching in girls lacrosse, and that's countywide. So just to get a varsity head coach, and then on top of that, getting a JV coach is really, really difficult, not easy. I mean, like for me, I had the opportunity when I took the job. Of course, my best friend of 26 years is gonna jump in with me. And who else can I trust to put my best friend as a JV coach and my varsity defensive coach? You know, I had the luxury of doing that, but other schools don't have that type of luxury. For me, and especially on the west side, it's harder. It's harder if you're not on campus. I personally would not have taken that job or even considered that job if I wasn't on campus. Because the coach before me, she wasn't successful because she wasn't on campus, even though she was at the middle school. Mike. Oh, Dante? Oh, okay.
We got you still, brother.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So
we got you still, yeah.
I wouldn't have ever considered taking that job if I wasn't on campus. And the former coach before me, she wasn't on campus, which I think that's what affected her the most. And her time there. So, but for me and my best friend, Coach Paul Cooper, we're both on campus, so the kids see us every day.
Yeah.
And he's the basketball coach there. So I mean, it also opens the opportunity to grow the sport even more. And at a time, you was a field hockey coach, so it really was a great time for us to grow the sport faster. And I remember,
Chris, you bring up a really good point when you're talking about having your best friend be your JV coach and all, because let's face it, there are so many sports, so many coaches. I can imagine that not just in lacrosse or any particular sport, I can imagine it's really hard to get coaches because it's a lot of time, and let's face it, a lot of time, not a whole lot of pay. I mean, you really got to be dedicated.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of time, and I honestly feel the success of a program only dictates to how great and how bonding of a staff that the staff is. So I got to have people I trust on, and I go through an interview process with people that come in. I remember this year I had a young lady who she played at Patrick Henry, and she played 1 year at University of Dallas, and then she came back and she's going to Grossmont College right now. But one of my coworkers I've known, and he's coached at Castle Park for 30 plus years as a wrestling coach, and he came up to me and told me, "Hey, this one young lady, her name is Alanis Rios, and she wants to coach." I said, "All right, yeah, bring her in." I told her everything about what we do and everything that she wanted, and I asked her certain questions. I said, "Hey, this is how we do things, and are you the best fit in this program? Because this is what we expect. There's expectations that we have as coaches, and if you don't fit that perspective, I'm not going to bring you on. Like I got to have a great staff that works together and is not going to argue. And if we do, I mean, we're all going to have our battles in the coach's office and whatnot. But it can't be shown on the field. There can't be any animosity on the field. I'm sorry.
Now,
We'll go down to the kids.
I'm sorry to interrupt. One question we're getting from PJ, Chris, he asked, what is the percentage of on-campus versus walk-on coaches in girls lacrosse? Do you have any idea what that might be countywide? Any guesses?
Countywide, I personally don't know. I mean, I wish I could tell you, but I know in the South Bay, in the conference, there's myself, Mar Vista, Bonita, Modern Day. I think those are the only schools that they're on campus.
Yeah, because again, I would imagine in a lot of sports, such as girls lacrosse, that haven't been around as long as, let's say, of course, football or something like that, that it would be hard to get on-campus coaches because, first of all, you'd have to, be on campus to begin with, obviously, and know the sport. I mean, if I could, and I go way, way back, my senior year at El Capitan in 1973, we had our first soccer team ever. We had a perfect season. We never won a game. We had a lot of fun. A lot of 0-0 ties, but our head coach was one of our PE coaches too, but just basically threw the ball out there and said, kick the ball. So I imagine it's progressed since then. But again, it would seem to me it would be hard to find on-campus coaches having so many sports.
It is. It's not easy at all. You got to really find that niche, and I've always said this: if you can coach one sport, I can guarantee you can coach something else. You just got to expand your mind. Put yourself out there and go and grow as I feel I've grown as a coach in major ways, coaching several different sports. And I've coached, like I said, I coach on the boys side, I coach on the girls side. It's made me a better coach overall. I know I was a rough and tough kind of coach when I first came in 2010. And I still have a little bit of those attributes, but I'm not like that anymore ever since I started coaching girls. And it took me about a year to get acclimated on the girls side, but I'm really happy that I did this because it's made me a better coach overall and just understanding how to do things differently.
So, you've really built up the girls lacrosse program there at Castle Park to where you guys competed for the league title. Was that for the first time last year, Chris? I know you and I have had that conversation prior. Is that right, or have you competed for the league title before?
No, in 2019 was the first time we were able to compete for the league title. In my time, in 2016, we went 0-17. The next year we went 2-15. I still remember that first win at Hoover and coming back, the ice dumped on me and giving my best friend a hug and saying, I can't believe we just did this. And the bus ride coming back, the girls were hyped up. We were hyped up. We were singing. It was like we won CIF, to break that 43-game losing streak over the 4 years or 3 years. It was great. And then the next year we went 6-14. It was more getting that understanding of what's important and understanding how to win. And that third year, we were able to get the league split from being one league. So it became Metro South Bay and Metro Mesa. And we had a little bit of issues at the end of that season, which we fixed a lot of it in 2019. So, and that really showed the importance. The kids didn't really understand what the importance of non-league games are. But now they do, and they understand it a lot better. And especially this season in 2020, if we were able to really continue our season, I think we would have won 15 plus games this year. But last year, we had the opportunity to compete, and we lost to Mar Vista twice. But I mean, I love Coach Baker over there at Mar Vista, and she does a great job. And just having one team and having players going in and out, and her playing at the D1 level, she created that program in 2009 at Mar Vista. And I'm happy that she won the league title for first time in school history over there in 2019. But it was a fun run. We gave it a game, and it was very competitive at all times. And I mean, my kids were scared of her team. They bullied them around the first game. I remember our motto that final game was bully the bullies back. But play within the rules of the game. So. She ended up her team ended up beating us 11-8 or 12-8, something like that. But I'm glad my kids went through that, because if you experience it one time, you know how it feels to lose, and you're not going to let it happen again. And I feel like this year would have been very competitive in 2020. And I think it would have really the league championship would have ran through Mar Vista and Castle Park. Whatever.
Chris,
I don't know.
I'm sorry, Chris. I found it interesting. A couple of minutes ago, you were talking about when you first coached girls sports, having to get acclimated. Because I know I grew up in Lakeside, went to El Capitan, and one of the guys several years older than me, one of the most physical football players I ever saw, a guy named Steve Sutton, and we all know what he did, West Hills and Valhalla. But it was funny because I knew Steve as a rough physical football player and a rough physical football coach, and yet in the spring he'd go out and coach girls softball, totally different thing. I mean, obviously, how hard is it to get acclimated to coaching a girls sport after you've been coaching a boys sport, especially a sport like football?
It's more understanding. I mean, that first year, it was for me, it was more understanding the sport. We did a lot of things with basketball style drills, and it benefited. But I also had a girl on the team that was a captain, and she helped us out with different things, and she was kind of a coach on the field also. But I mean, overall, it's just more understanding the kids and where they're at mindset wise, because girls, it's a lot different than boys.
Yeah.
Boys, you could tell them and they'll run through a damn wall. But girls, you got to be a little bit more sensitive and understanding to what they are. And you got to play. You got to play a little bit of games to get them hyped up than a boy.
Interesting.
Adam, what do you think the health of girls and boys lacrosse is here in the East County? I think there's 7 boys programs, 6 girls programs. And do you think any schools will be adding lacrosse? That's why I mentioned earlier about the opportunities in college, because there seems to be, less players playing, despite the fact that it's probably the fastest growing sport of all the CIF sports. I guess you could throw in like girls wrestling and stuff, but with those college opportunities, how many athletes could see the light? Maybe they're playing one of those other sports. Boys are playing in another sport at the time, or girls are doing something else at the time. And these scholarships, I mean, these are real opportunities out there.
Well, I think, like Chris was saying, it depends on the school and the culture. Having watched Santana, their coach is Coach Rod, who's also the, if you're familiar with boys water polo, Rod Bowen, his son Alex went on to play for the Olympic team for water polo, and also at Stanford. But anyways, he was the boys lacrosse coach, or field hockey, or whatever they call it now in the spring. I'm sorry, I always get that confused. Watching him coach, he's kind of built up that program at Santana because it's still considered a club sport, from my understanding, on the boys' side. The girls, I've watched a few of the games. I saw Helix play; they were pretty good, I think. Grossmont, I think, is okay. I think. Like you said, there aren't a lot of schools that have it. I think both Valhalla and Santana are kind of building their programs on the girls' side, because when I did the senior night this last year for them, did the announcements for my friend who had asked me to do it, they didn't have very many players on their squad, and neither did Valhalla. Now, Chris, did you see, when you first started, did you see the participation grow as the years have gone by?
Oh yeah, I mean, Valhalla is a new team for girls. Modern Day is a new team for girls. Morris is a new team. I know the city conference is trying to open up a lot more teams. I hear Crawford is going to come up next year. A lot of these schools, Lincoln's new too. A lot of these schools have come to me to talk to me about being a startup program and how to do things. I've given them the best advice that I can, and whatever they want to, whatever type of culture they want to build is what they build. And moving forward, I mean, last year I did propose to CIF about making a third division. Well, technically it would be 4 because you have open. CIF has now put that proposal out. I mean, mine got denied last year, but a new one has been put out because there is 60 teams, which now needs to be voted by the conferences. So hopefully we get an answer within the next month or so before John Lebetta leaves. And by the way, Mr. Lebetta has done a great job as assistant commissioner of CIF over his time with Jerry. And, Jerry's a Metro Conference guy too. I've known Jerry for years. So I'm really kind of excited to continue seeing the growth of the game. And, and any of these coaches, because I've been in their shoes, I try to help them out. One thing that upset me my first year was teams come up to me and they're like, oh yeah, no, we're a startup program too. We're brand new. No, there's a difference of being a startup program and being a few years in. There's a massive difference. And, I would never, ever want a team to go through what I went through that first year, where teams just sandbag me so bad. And, I keep it in the back of my head for when my team does get good and, and we get the opportunity to play them. But I always try to approach those teams and tell them, hey, no, you may want to play this type of team first. You may want to play this team because you want to gain confidence. Because I remember my kids when we first started, we were playing Eastlake and we would get smoked. And my buddy, RIP to Coach Bloss, but my kids, when we went to Eastlake every year, they were like, oh, well, it's Eastlake, we're gonna lose, so it doesn't really matter. No, it does matter. You're playing a division school, and if you go out there and compete and you beat them, well, your ranking is going through the roof. So, and especially if you're at the bottom of the barrel of a D2 team. So, I mean, and when he was alive and we played him in 2019, we gave him a scare. We scored a few goals on him in the beginning, and he got a little scared. He looked at me on the side. He's like, "Oh man, I got to start coaching." But he was a great mentor to me and everything we've ever wanted to do. And Adam, this is what you and I talked about a couple of days ago. I was always his bull. Like he was a very, very nice man, and didn't want to push any buttons, but I am that type of person where whatever he wants or whatever he wanted to grow the game, we're gonna do it, and I'm gonna push for it because it's the benefit of the growth of the game. You know, I want to make a county all-star game next year. I wanted to kind of guinea pig it with Metro Conference this year, but I totally understand Joe Hines' decision and that he doesn't want to have an all-star game all the way around for every spring sport, which I'm good with. I get it. You know, keep the continuity. But I want to make a county all-star game, make it I know there's 5 conferences, but we can split one of the biggest conferences and make it a playoff bracket. Whoever wins, they advance in the bracket, and then the ultimate winner claims the best conference in San Diego County. And you take your first team and your second team all league players, and that should define your best conference.
Now, I was gonna, ask you about that because you're big about the growth of the game, and like you said, we talked about this a couple days ago. Obviously your big idea about a county all-star game, which I am a big proponent of any type of all-star game, as I'm sure Steve and Ramon are for any sport. You were talking about a coaches clinic. Can you elaborate on that? Because that what you were telling me about that, and what you showed me, sounded really cool, especially if you're a coach, a beginner's coach.
Oh yeah. So when I first took the job at Castle Park, our school was in a, they were in a lawsuit and everybody knows about it. So when they hired me, who number one didn't have a girls coaching background or didn't coach a sport. I in the San Diego Girls Lacrosse Association, I ended up winning and getting nominated to go to Baltimore to go to the big time convention, which I went to for a few days before I got snowed in. I came back home. But the following week, I had the opportunity to go to Napa, and the district paid for that. And I learned some stuff. But when I was looking at videos, and I became a certified level 1 coach and knew the basic stuff. But once I was going around and looking at videos, a lot of people lean on going to uslacrosse.org. There's just not a lot of stuff up there. You YouTube things and stuff from the 1980s. And, we're in a different era. This is late 2000, this is going into the 2020 time. We're now in 2020. You coach in a different way. There's different things how you do. There's a million different ways to skin a cat. So I wanted to, and me being a football coach, we're always big on coaches going to coaching clinics, sharpen our tools, and make ourselves better for the next year. So I'm big on that. And, meeting all these college coaches, it gave me the opportunity to open the door, and I wanted to have a coaches clinic. I know we can't really do it out here, so I wanted to do it virtually. And I was like, all right, I got all these contacts that are people that I know, especially our own back door of Coach White over at SDSU. Why not utilize these people? And like I told you, Adam, I got Coach Plett. She's the head coach at Eastern Oregon University, who's going to talk about building a culture. Coach Kaylee White, the head coach at SDSU, who will have a defensive topic. Coach Taylor Gate, and she'll be doing an offensive topic. She's an assistant coach at SDSU. Her dad, who's the head coach at University of Syracuse, and he's been there for a long time. I don't know what topic he's gonna have, but he's a really, really knowledgeable lacrosse coach. Played it at the highest level on the boys side, men's side. I got Coach Callie Bills. She's the head coach at Elmhurst College, and she's going to talk about defense and probably some goalie conversation. And then I also got Coach Jaime Collier, who is the strength and conditioning coach at Cornell College, and he'll be talking about strength and conditioning. And then I got Coach Ashley Travis, who is the head coach at Fort Lewis College, and she'll have an offensive topic also. So there's 7 coaches. It'll be over 3 days. I don't want to put too many people on the screen for 4 hours. That's a lot of time. So we're doing 2 presenters per day, 1 hour sessions, and the one day we'll have 3 presenters. So I think it's going to be really good. I've already emailed the coach. There's a lot of coaches that are interested in jumping on that I've emailed in the county, and this is opening up for everybody. I mean, I could talk about my staff alone. Myself, I don't have coaching or, I don't have playing and coaching experience of lacrosse until I started coaching it. Same thing with my JV and / my defensive coach. Nothing either. I have 2 young ladies. One's 22 and one's 20. They both have playing experience, but one of them is only high school in the South Bay, and then the other one has 1 year of college experience at a D3 level. So as long as we can continue sharpening our tools, and then my goalie coach, he played on the boys side for as a goalie. and defense, I mean, you have so many opportunities to teach your coaches. And, for us, all of us as head coaches, is if we have assistants, we want to make them better and get them to being a head coach. So, I mean, that's my goal. And, I've turned at 31 years old, I've turned into this mentor coach already. I already have 12 years of experience with coaching, and I'm now the mentor coach as the head coach at Castle Park for girls lacrosse. I feel like I'm a mentor coach at Sarah too for, some of the younger guys that are on staff there too.
Now, I'm sorry, Steve. What are the dates of this virtual?
Yeah, can people reach out to you, or have you already extended that to invite people invite coaches into that?
I have already emailed the initial conversation of when we're going to have it last week to all the coaches in San Diego County, head coaching wise. The dates are June 2nd, June 3rd, and June 4th. So it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of that first week of June. Anybody
who hasn't heard about that, they can contact you maybe privately.
Oh yeah, they can definitely contact me. And I'm gonna be putting out something more next week that's concrete. I'm just waiting on 2 more coaches to just let me know what date that they want to present on, and I should have a better answer by the end of the week and make it more concrete by Monday of next week. So I'm excited for it. It's something new for the county. I mean, I know Coach Kenny, who's a Patrick Henry head coach. He's told me in the past that they've done clinics at SDSU, but I know this is something that's going to be exciting, and it's going to expand the game a lot more, and we're going to do a lot. I'm trying to open the door a lot more for the game, and Kenny's given me the opportunity to be on his board member staff at for San Diego Girls Lacrosse Association. So I feel like the game is going to grow a lot more with us. So I'm really excited for the future of girls lacrosse and moving forward.
Guys, I was going to say, Steve, out in East County, lacrosse kind of starts at Granite Hills, their program, both the boys and the girls. I think they've been playing great lacrosse there for, a number of years now, dating back over a decade for sure. Great teams. And also Grossmont, pretty strong program. Bahal has had some success as well. But I'll remind you this. You guys know this, but I'm just jog your memory a little bit. The most famous lacrosse player from the East County went to Granite Hills, and he's the great long snapper of the New England Patriots, Joe Cardona, Conference Player of the Year in 2010, if you remember, and they had a great year in 2010, and of course, Bill Belichick is probably the biggest lacrosse fan in the country.
Oh, of course. Hey, I don't know
if any of you guys know, but Coach Belichick's daughter is the head coach at Holy Cross for girls lacrosse.
Didn't know that. Hey, Chris, before we let you go, we've almost hit the hour mark. One thing I wanted to ask you, an overall question about what's going on in CIF and all. We mentioned earlier, of course, the new commissioner starting in July, Joe Hines from the South Bay. You know him well. What can we expect from Joe Hines when he takes over as the new CIF commissioner here in San Diego?
He is going to be very understandable, and he has a very great work ethic. I mean, I think he's really going to grow the game, just high school athletics and make it more of a higher standard academically, because he's a big believer on you're a student before you're an athlete, and you got to take care of business as a student first. I mean, Coach Hines has so much experience. He was a high school player at Chula Vista High, played at San Diego State with Marshall Falk, was a high school coach at Chula, been an administrator. I mean, he has so much experience, and I'm so excited for him and happy for him and his family. I mean, I can really see the growth of, and he's gonna propel high school athletics even more than what Jerry did. Jerry did a phenomenal job, but I just feel it's gonna be a very reasonable in what he does, and it's gonna be, there's not gonna be a lot of issues I think have gone on in the past with Joe, because Joe's clear cut. I mean, there's no gray mark with him.
Oh, that's good to know. Well, Chris, that's good to know. Go ahead, Adam. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, back to the game of lacrosse, because we're all media members here. How do you, obviously you're the coach, and Steve, Ramon, and I are media guys. How is lacrosse promoted in the media? Because
we need more, right?
I'm just curious, because I know I see Prep Insider, do interviews here and there. And obviously, the UT and, their coverage. I mean, we don't have enough people out here to to cover everything. It's really hard. So I was just curious, how is the game promoted?
It really isn't. I tried to start a Facebook page. It's out there. It's San Diego County Girls Lacrosse, I believe. But I really do want people to jump on there and talk about it. I mean, San Diego football does a great job on social media with their Twitter feed and their Facebook stuff. I know there was a coach's page for on Facebook for a while, but I want to do the same thing for lacrosse. I really want people to know what's going on. I mean, like this year, I did a scrimmage. I hosted the first South Bay Jamboree scrimmage, which is just it's for the refs to get their time and their hours that they need before they can start reffing in regular season games. And I had teams from North County, East County, City Conference all coming down. I had 20 plus teams, and just to see the unity when we were able to just have a member of a moment of silence for Coach Bloss, and to see all the schools around the circle in the middle of the field at Castle Park was great. It was great to see. Just that's what I want. I want to be able to bring us together more, where it's not a certain conference bias at all. It's more it's biased of San Diego County girls lacrosse, and in the county, all the conferences back each other no matter what. That's what I want to see. And like I told you guys earlier, what I want to see, and when I'm done on the girls' side, before I want to start the boys' side at Castle Park, is I want to see Castle Park in competing successfully at the Mesa League, which is the higher tier conference or a higher tier league in the Metro Conference. I want to see Castle Park in the D1 playoff brackets. I want to see us be able to win a couple CIF championships whenever the opportunities present itself, and win some league titles too. That's when I'm done. And then countywide, it's growing a lot faster than what I expected. But having that all-star game moving forward, and just having it more established and understanding that there's a lot of players everywhere. I mean, I could talk about my one great player at Castle Park, Nani Roche, who I say is a D1 athlete. I mean, kid never picked up a stick, but she scored 42 goals by herself as a sophomore. And I mean, she would have exceeded and blown stuff out of the waters this year if she was able to play. I mean, I seen the kid take a shot at a goalie and hit her square in the chest, and that ball drove the goalie into the goal, and we still scored. I seen the girl shoot from the goal meter line with the girl shading her inside and jumping over and hitting the top corner of the goal and making it. I mean, that kid is just so athletic, and I want people to know that there's athletes everywhere. It's not just North County, it's not just East County, it's not just City. No, there's athletes everywhere, and especially in the South Bay.
Yeah, Steve, that's why I keep saying, if you're an athlete and it looks like you're coming up a little bit short of getting those college opportunities, grab a stick.
Yeah, Ramon, thanks so much. And hey, Chris Kryjewski, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate your insight. And of course, as always, for Adam Paul from EC Preps and Ramon Scott from EastCountySports.com for putting everything together tonight. And again, Chris, best of luck certainly in your new adventure with a Sarah football team, and also continuing to success down there at Castle Park. And again, we really appreciate you reaching out to us and being with us tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate the invite and being on tonight.
Thanks, Coach K. Great insight. All right, for Chris Kryjewski, Coach K, Adam Paul, Steve Dolan, I'm Ramon Scott. Thank you for joining us on Dolan's Dugout.
All right, have a good night.
Good night, guys.